Hi, and welcome to today's webinar on health plan telephone sales. Today we'll be talking about embracing technology to increase your productivity and your income as an agent. Today's presentation is brought to you by Vic Prichard. I've been in the insurance business nearly 8 years, and 98% of my sales are completed right over the telephone and internet without ever leaving my office. Over the past 7.5 or so years, I've enrolled almost 4,000 clients in various health plans, and 98% of those plan sales, again, happen right over the phone. It's a very quick, easy, and efficient process that's very duplicatable, and that allows me to sell 1 to 3 policies a day without ever having to drive to a customer's home or business. Today we'll briefly discuss a little bit about the online shopping trends for consumers, which of course includes health insurance, and how you can position yourself ahead of that trend to capitalize on the sales opportunity. And from there we'll go into 9 easy steps to selling a health plan online. Again, a proven system that is proven to work, and I think you'd be surprised how easy it is for you as an agent to duplicate the same results. Allow about 20 minutes for today's webinar to cover the information. As you know, over the past 10 years, more and more people are looking for information about health plans online. There's many lead sources that you as an agent can tap into by doing a Google search for health insurance leads online, and that will give you a good pipeline of people to be contacting. Purchasing a health policy over the internet is actually the #1 way now that sales are completed, and again, it allows you to save time over the old face-to-face concept. One thing that is critical that we'll talk about in the 9-step selling process is that customers will only do business with people that are reputable and that they have a good reputation and a good quality product. And so a lot of what we do is making ourselves appear legitimate to the client and generating rapport and trust so that they can look at health plan options with us, that they'll actually make a decision to purchase with us over the phone without ever having to meet in person. So step #1, of course, we'll start with the initial contact with the consumer. So regardless of the lead source, the customer is either going to reach out to you in the form of a telephone call or an email. And so one thing that's a little bit different with selling online over the phone versus selling face-to-face, of course, is you're going to have to make sure that you treat it like a real job and that you're available and you're at your desk during business hours, or at a minimum you have access to your cell phone and have access to your email, because when a customer emails you back saying I'm ready to apply for a plan, you just don't want to miss that opportunity. But the first thing, of course, would be to introduce yourself as an experienced health insurance broker, and that you have several different plan options that you can present to them. If they know that you have multiple options, they'll be a lot less likely to get off the phone with you and then go on to the next website or call the next agent trying to compare different plans. This is true whether you represent only Philadelphia American or you represent multiple carriers. One of the most important things is describing to the client why they should work with you versus someone else. Do you live in their same town or in their same county or their same part of the state? Do you have years of experience that you can throw out there to capitalize on? Do you have multiple different plan offerings? And just the fact certainly that with the Philadelphia American Health Saver product, you can provide them access to much lower cost plans than they would see potentially on healthcare.gov, with, again, more personalized service. You can answer questions for them and walk them through the process so they feel comfortable they're getting the best health plan at the lowest cost. Step #2 is certainly just finding out what the client needs. I like to start with open-ended questions like, so John, tell me a little bit about your situation. What type of health plan are you searching for? Are you the type that only goes to the doctor a couple times a year, or do you want a real comprehensive plan that's going to pay for every single little prescription and doctor visit throughout the year? Also, of course, asking customers if they're currently covered or they're about to lose coverage might give you some interesting information. So if they say, well, I'm about to lose my group plan, but I have a COBRA option, you certainly know that you can probably get them an medically underwritten policy for about half the cost of what a group insurance or COBRA coverage or Obamacare, unsubsidized Obamacare plan would be. And so finding out a little bit about how much they've been paying certainly is going to help you to structure your quotes to where you can significantly improve their benefits while hopefully saving them some money. I always like to ask people just right off the bat, is the quote just for you or would there be other family members? And selling over the telephone, it's important to have a blank client worksheet to start recording information right away from the very beginning of the conversation. Here's an example of what the quote information sheet looks like that I use. Basically, it just allows me to record the information in real time as I talk to the client with their name, gender, date of birth, tobacco use. And then later on, as we button up the sale, we'll actually record the banking information, social security numbers, and all that other information so that once you've got a fully completed quote worksheet, you would have all the information you would need to submit any health insurance application. Step number 3 is to identify the best plan options for the client. I always start out with, Mary, in your case, the best value on a health insurance plan would be with the better medically underwritten plans. The premiums, Mary, are going to be so much lower than on a guaranteed acceptance type plan like one of the Obamacare plans or something like a COBRA insurance plan. Now, Mary, to see if you'd qualify for one of these plans, do you have any medical conditions like diabetes, asthma, history of cancer, heart problems? That's going to get them to tell you whether they're a good candidate for a medically underwritten policy like the Philadelphia Health Saver plan. Of course, 8 to 9 out of 10 clients are going to respond in a positive manner, and at that point, I definitely jump in and say, great, it looks like we can qualify you for one of the better, lower cost PPO network plans that allow you to choose your own doctors. Step number 4 is to identify the best plan options and tell the customer why. So in the example I've got here on the slide, in your case, Mrs. Jones, I'm thinking about a local Houston, Texas-based carrier. Notice I'm not mentioning the name of the carrier because we don't have a nationally recognized brand name at this point with Philadelphia American, although the popularity is increasing every year. I'm thinking about a local Houston, Texas-based carrier that's been in business since 1924. They have a much lower cost PPO plan that allows you to choose your own doctors and hospitals. At this point, I've already launched my Philadelphia American desktop quoter, and I'm literally entering dates of birth as I'm talking with the customer so that I can quickly give them a ballpark of where we would be in terms of rates. And so, of course, I'm going to ask for their dates of birth, or I might already have those from an electronic lead that was generated that we made contact off of. And so at this point, I would say, wow, Mrs. Jones, it looks like we can get you a really good PPO network health plan for about $250 a month. This is a PPO plan where you can choose your own doctors, and doctor visits are approximately $25. People are so used to what they pay for a doctor visit because they may have had a group insurance plan in the past with a copay that I find it more productive to speak in terms of approximately what their cost would be rather than selling the plan on what the insured benefit the plan would pay. So as an example, on the Philadelphia American 2-unit Health Saver 3 plan, it pays a $60 benefit for a doctor visit. So that doctor visit may retail at $130, but after the PPO network repricing is applied, we typically see about $85 plus or minus would be the network negotiated rate. The carrier pays a $60 benefit, so the client just covers the remaining $25. And then I just let people know this health plan covers the full range of services like wellness checkup visits, sickness, accidental injury. And by the way, Mrs. Jones, the plan has great, very comprehensive doctor and hospital benefits. Step number 5 is really step number 4 continued. We're going to continue to tell people why this is the best plan for the money. I like to tell people, which is a true statement, this has been my #1 selling policy of all times, and I tell people how many clients I've enrolled in the plan because of the much lower premium and the fact that you can choose your own doctors. And by the way, the best part about the plan is the deductible. In 99% of cases, you only have a $50 per year outpatient deductible. The only time you'd have the higher deductible, and of course you as the agent can select whatever deductible level, $5,000, $2,500, $1,000, is if you stay overnight in a hospital room, which, as you know, is pretty unlikely. So the way this policy works is it just pays an insured benefit for every medical service, like a doctor visit, a blood test, MRI scan. Well, Mrs. Jones, do you have any other questions about how the plan works? Keep in mind, folks, at this point, I haven't even mentioned really a whole lot about the carrier other than their local Texas-based carrier that's been in business for 92 years. It's really easy to oversell over the phone, and since people don't have a brochure or they're not with you face-to-face, what I really find that people want to know is just the basics. How much is the plan per month? How much does a doctor visit cost? What are the major benefits like in case I go to the hospital? And, what doctors can I use? What doctors participate with the plan? Step number 5, of course, would be just a trial, close, and wrap up. Basically, I just say, hey, this plan priced out about half of what some of the other plans priced out at. The reason the premium is so much lower is this plan is not a guaranteed acceptance plan, Mrs. Jones. So if you're in good health, you would qualify for this and not have to pay twice the premium to subsidize all the unhealthy people who automatically qualify for one of the guaranteed acceptance Obamacare type plans. So why would you pay $200 more a month than you need to for a quality plan? That seems to work really well. And then the other steps in wrapping up is, if you take a look at the plan and like it, Mrs. Jones, do you think that the $250 per month premium would be in your general budget range? A lot of agents over the telephone would try to do a one-call close, and at this point would try to get their banking information and make the sale. What I typically do is I stop one step short and I say, great, Mrs. Jones, I'll go ahead and email you all the information about the plan along with the plan brochure and how much the premium would be. By the way, the name of the carrier is Philadelphia American, and I remind them how reputable the carrier is. And then, Mrs. Jones, is there a good time that I could check back with you after you've looked at the plan to see if you have any questions about how the plan works? Step number 6 is to send the quote email, and what I normally do is try to send a template, an email template, so I don't have to retype the entire quote email. The way you would create a template is you would just basically write it out on a Microsoft Word document, and you would save it to your My Documents folder. I even have a folder that says Email Templates, and every time I'm ready to compose a new email, I open up the Word document and click Copy, and then I go to a new email message in the Compose field and click Paste, and it pastes the same quote, and all I have to do really is just change the customer's name and how much the premium is, and maybe tweak one or two optional benefits like critical illness, dental, or a supplemental accidental injury. So the email templates can save you a lot of time and money. I only put the top 6 or 7 plan highlights as bullet points in the body of the email, and then I go ahead and attach the brochure just to build credibility. Most people don't even open up the brochure, and they like the fact that they can see that a doctor visit is approximately $25, or in 99% of cases, the plan is only a $50 deductible. Just those basic bullet points in the body of the email quote. At the bottom of the email, try to put as much information to build credibility about you as an insurance broker as you can, such as your phone number. Some of you have toll-free numbers. You may have your own website. You may have your own company name. So it's just very important that you're doing everything you can to say, hey, I'm a reputable person that's a real agent that you're talking to, and not just one of these online telephone internet scammers that we hear so much about in the news. Step number 7, taking the application over the telephone. I basically call back within 24 to 48 hours, and I just say, hey Mary, it's Vic with the health insurance. I'm just calling to mainly make sure that you received the email quote that I sent yesterday, and I just wanted to see if you had any questions about the plan. If so, I answer them. If not, I immediately go right into, one of the best things about this plan is it's just an easy 5-minute telephone application. I know you mentioned that your current plan ends in a couple weeks, so now would probably be a good time to start the application process to make sure the carrier has enough time to process your application. As a matter of fact, I have most of the info that we would need already for your application. Would you happen to have a few minutes to finish up with me over the telephone together? You want to use your partially filled out client worksheet at this point to go ahead and record the rest of their information as far as any health conditions or prescriptions they might be taking. I always save the Social Security number to the very last step in terms of their personal information. And then I have a very specific way of asking for the bank draft information over the telephone. This has made all the difference for me in being able to sell over the telephone and not have to go face to face. I avoid using the word bank draft or draft your account or anything that could be construed as frightening to the consumer. And so basically I just say, Mrs. Jones, one of the ways this carrier is able to keep premiums so low is they're just not set up for billing to debit or credit cards where the carrier would get charged additional merchant fees. So what the carrier asks is that we just set the plan up to bill monthly to a checking or savings account. It could be either a business or personal account. And so what they're asking me to key in here with your application would just be the little routing and account number that would run across the bottom of one of the checks for whatever account that we would like to use to set up the billing for the monthly premiums. I can tell you in 99 cases out of 100, there's very little resistance when the banking information is presented in that manner. Button up the sale is very important after you've pretty much got everything that you need. I always try to make the client really feel good about, hey, they've got this off their to-do list. I've got everything taken care of for them. And it gives them a big sense of relief. And so I normally say something like, great, Mrs. Jones, I've got all the information we need for your application. If you have a quick minute, I'll go ahead and explain how the process works from here. And then I'll tell them that in the next day or two, they should be receiving an electronic email verification link. If they don't get that or receive that, then I say that they'll be receiving a telephone interview call instead. And then one of the things that I do make sure that I mention is that they're going to say that this is not a Obamacare or Affordable Care Act plan. And I tell people that most of the plans we sell are the non-ACA plans because that's how we get the lower premium and the lower deductible and the ability to have a PPO network environment where they can pick their own doctors. And I remind the client that I'm going to send a nice confirmation email coming from me as well, recapping how much their monthly premium is and to be expecting the email link or the phone interview call. I also, in my confirmation email, send them a link to look up doctors in the PPO network, and I tell them about the separate pharmacy discount card that they'll be receiving that's separate from their fully insured health insurance plan card that they would use at the doctor or hospital. Keying in the application is easy. You just take the information off your client worksheet, go ahead and send the confirmation email. And then what I normally do is within a couple days, I check the application status and just give the client a quick courtesy call or email, letting them know everything's approved, and it'll probably be about a week before they actually see the plan arrive at their home in the mail. And of course, always remember to ask for referrals, same thing as you would do on a face-to-face sale. Just some miscellaneous things to keep in mind when selling over the telephone or internet is why should the client trust you? What can you use to make yourself appear to be a mature, credible, legitimate, agent that cares about what their needs are? Are you really taking the time to listen to the customer? Are you pointing out how you're different from your competitors? One thing I always try to do is speak and enunciate very slowly and clearly over the telephone, and to avoid complicated industry jargon or abbreviations. Like sometimes we use the term CI for critical illness. I would never use that term when I'm speaking to a client. I would say the full word critical illness. And also, if you have just some common responses prepared, even if you have to write those down to the most common objections you get, you'll be able to have a very natural response to questions they would ask, like, why can't I use a credit card to pay the premium? Or, why can't we just do a paper application in person or something like that? So I just tell people, the carrier's got an easy application. It's actually just a telephone application that saves everyone a lot of time, and it makes the process much quicker and more efficient. A few last things to remember. We keep all of your client worksheets in a file on your desk so that you can call back every couple days to check in with people. A lot of times I resend the quote email as well, separately from leaving a voice message, to where they may be talking with more than one agent. So that way they say, oh, okay, this is the agent that sent me that $250 per month plan versus the other 10 agents that are trying to call the person back that have the $600 per month Obamacare plan. Try to have set hours you'll be working. Since you're not driving or meeting with clients, that will put you in front of the computer when they reply to these email quotes that you've sent, so you can respond in a timely manner. Most of you probably keep some type of database for past clients. Since I'm not out and about in businesses or in homes, I have a website that automatically sends an email once a month to my customer database just to stay in touch, and almost every month I get referrals out of that. And certainly there's many other ways that you can get exposure by having a cheap website of your own or a business Facebook page. There are many different internet directory listings, like Google My Business, for instance, where again you can put that out there online to get additional exposure. But also, if a client Googles your name or your insurance agency, you're going to come up as a legitimate person that has an internet presence. Thanks for watching today. I hope you enjoyed today's webinar on selling over the telephone and internet to be more productive as an agent and dramatically increase your income. Thanks for tuning in.